I'm Michaela Kathleen, and I'm here today with my December reading wrap-up. I read 4 books in December, and I can't say I have a lot of thoughts about any of them. As per my tradition, I read a lot of children's books in December. To me, children's books are just very cozy for the holiday season, and since they're children's books, I just don't have a ton of thoughts on them. But jumping right in, the first book I read was Indigo's Star by Hilary McKay. I got this from a friend of mine who really loved the book as a kid. She was moving and had to get rid of a lot of books. So I wanted to really like it, but I feel like since I am reading it as an adult and had not read it as a kid, I just probably didn't have as much of the nostalgia factor on it. But yeah, just most of the book, I was just kind of wondering what the premise was. There wasn't a ton of plot with this one. The characters were very quirky and fun. It follows this boy named Indigo and his family, and Indigo has been out of school for a long time with meningitis, and he's going back and he's worried about it because he used to get bullied at school. And yeah, it's just kind of following him going back to school and dealing with bullies, and there's a new kid at school who kind of helps with the whole process. So, I mean, there was a plot. It just wasn't a lot of plot. It did have some funny bits. Like I said, the characters are all pretty eccentric and fun and likable. Actually, Indigo to me kind of has the least personality of any of them. At points, it almost actually felt like his little sister was the main character rather than him, which kind of makes sense because this is like a series of companion books that follow the various siblings in this family, and the little sister, who felt very much like a main character, has 2 books in this series of companion books. So I think maybe the author just really liked writing for her, and that's why it felt like she was the main character. Some of the elements in the book are a bit cryptic because it is very much from the kids' perspectives. So there are things going on in their lives with like their parents and stuff that they just don't really fully understand, and you have to just kind of infer yourself a little bit. And there were definitely nice bits in the book. The beginning and the end of the book really connected together nicely. The beginning and the end were my favorite. The middle was a bit slower. But yeah, overall, just I didn't have a nostalgia factor for this one. So I didn't connect with it super strongly, which was kind of my feeling for a lot of the children's books that I read this year. So moving on, years and years ago, my sister-in-law gave me these 2 like condensed, adapted classic children's books, and I just never read them. And this year I was like, okay, it's time to finally just read these and probably get rid of them, which is what I'm doing. So the first was Black Beauty by Anna Sewell, and obviously very famous book. I totally thought that this was a horse girl book in the same genre as all like the horse girl movies, like Flicka and all those movies. And so I thought it was gonna be from the perspective of a young girl caring for a horse and trying to save its life, and like probably having to convince her father to rescue the horse. But that is not what this is. This is a first-person perspective from the viewpoint of Black Beauty, the horse, our main character. So that threw me for a loop a little bit. There definitely was not a lot of dialogue in the book because of that. Black Beauty does talk a little bit to a horse friend that he has has the same owners as him for most of his life. And yeah, the story is kind of just him bouncing from owner to owner. Some owners are good, some are bad, and definitely just the overriding message of the book is don't be shitty towards horses or animals, which is a good message, but I don't know if I needed 170 pages of just that message. And then after that, I read Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. I had not read Huckleberry Finn or Tom Sawyer or any Mark Twain book. This one had more going for it than Black Beauty, just in the style of the storytelling. There was more dialogue, more action, less just driving away on a singular message. But at the same time, it was still just okay. It was Also not super engaging for me, and honestly this is the one that I have the least amount of thoughts on. This one was further condensed than Black Beauty from the original story, so I feel like there was probably more missing. But yeah, maybe I would have more thoughts if I had read the full novel. And then finally in December, I'm doing this video even more early than I usually would do a wrap up, because I'm going to be gone the whole last week of December. So I am probably going to read 1, maybe 2 more books before the end of the month, but those will just have to go into January's wrap up. Besides that, this is just a good book to end on for a December wrap up, and that is Skipping Christmas. I don't have the cover because, and please don't judge me, I'm getting rid of the book because I didn't like the book very much, but I did really like the sleeve, the cover, and so I cut it up and put it in my reading journal. Don't judge me. So yes, this is partially the cover that should be on here. It's just very pretty and I wanted to keep it. But I did not want to keep the book. This book is just painfully early 2000s. It's very like Keeping Up with the Joneses, all the men hate their wives for some reason, and it's all about conformity. And basically the characters are all just really annoying and really unlikable people, like deeply unlikable. I got this one from a free little library as a side note, and I knew that it was the book of Christmas with the Cranks, early 2000s Christmas movie with Jamie Lee Curtis and Tim Allen. And I liked the movie well enough as a kid. It was never like in my top 10 Christmas movies, but I have watched it a handful of Christmases since it came out. And I actually did do a rewatch after reading the book. And I'm glad I did, because I did still enjoy the movie. Still not a top favorite by any means, but I enjoyed the movie. And I think the big difference, because the movie follows the book very closely, the big difference is that actors are able to bring more to the character than just the dialogue on the page, and even the internal thoughts, I guess. The actors just made the characters quite a bit more likable. In the book, the Cranks truly believe that they are superior to everyone, and you get to hear the fact that they're thinking that all the time. Whereas in the movie, you cannot hear them thinking that, and you have like somewhat pleasant deliveries coming from Jamie Lee Curtis and Tim Allen. But yeah, in the book, the Cranks are truly just so cranky. And I really couldn't figure out the exact message of the book. It was really hard to tell if it was pro or anti-consumerism. It really seems to be pushing conformity, which just doesn't seem like it can be right, but it seems like what it's going for. And I feel like the movie added a little scene at the end before our main character does something nice because he's learned his lesson. In the movie, they have like this little scene before he does that kind of helps, I don't know, push it home better. But also, the book just came across very repetitive. It didn't feel this way in the movie, but we have like at least 3 different scenes where people are asking the main character to buy something that the proceeds are going to charity, or to just straight up donate to charity. The main character says the same exact thing every time and thinks the same exact thoughts every time, and it's just so repetitive. And then also, so what he does every time is he says, I'm not gonna buy your thing for Christmas, but don't you have this other charity thing happening in the spring? I'm gonna give you money for that. And it kind of starts to become like, what's the point of saving money by not donating at Christmas time if you're just gonna donate the money in the spring? I don't know, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And then the other thing it was that the characters in the book were making themselves so miserable trying to skip Christmas so they could have this cruise, because the main character is frustrated with how miserable they are every Christmas, having to, you know, have all this stressful putting together parties and buying gifts and going out on the busy icy roads, and you know, it's all so stressful, and they end up getting so mad at each other because they're stressed and they're fighting all December long, and so they're gonna take a cruise, that way they won't be stressed and angry and fighting with each other. But then they are taking the skipping Christmas thing to such an extreme that they're stressing themselves out, making themselves angry, and fighting with each other. And so the whole point of the book just is shot by the fact that it's what they're trying to avoid is happening anyways, which I think is part of the point of the book, I guess, of showing these characters who are so caught up in this thing that they're trying to do that they think is going to make them happy, but really it's not. And I don't know, there could be a message there about, you know, I guess having some self-introspection to know when you're not really making yourself happy. But it just comes across as a little bit silly. There's also like quite a bit of really weird, uncomfy, bad race stuff happening in this book, which the movie kind of removes. So that's a good thing, I guess. But yeah, it just wasn't great. But yeah, all that being said, the ending for the book and the movie was by far the best part. The ending is really sweet and nice and heartwarming. Everyone kind of, you know, comes together with true Christmas spirit that's not about presents and all that. It's about, you know, supporting each other, and it's really nice. It does make you wish you got to see a little bit more of the daughter, because everyone really kind of rallies behind her more than anything else. And you're like, wow, she's this really great character. I wish we could have seen her more. But yeah, overall, this one was not great. Not my cup of tea. I still enjoy the movie well enough. It's definitely not a yearly watch, but it's a decent every few years watch. But the book, not so much. I will not be reading this one again. I think I will be putting it back into a free little library. Sadly, again, without its cover, I feel a little bit bad, but it was so pretty. So yeah, those were all of the books that I read in December, for the most part. You'll probably be seeing another book in the December section of my reading journal when I do a flip through in the new year, but that was because I'm taking a trip. But anyways, let me know down below what you read in December. Did you read any Christmas books better than Skipping Christmas or worse than Skipping Christmas? I hope you enjoyed watching. Remember, words matter. And Merry Christmas!